Our entire family is bound to the double effect system by my uncle's family. My dad's salary is 10,000, my uncle's stock trading account gets an extra 20,000, my mom goes to the beauty salon for a facial, and's rough skin inexplicably became twice as smooth and fair. My family saved for a long time before finally moving into a bright and spacious large apartment. Uncle's family immediately moved into a townhouse in the same neighborhood. It wasn't until the final subject of the college entrance exam that I accidentally drank the spiked water. When I forced myself to endure the stomach pain and finished the exam paper, just when I thought I was doomed, the next moment, the emergency personnel rushed to carry away my cousin, who had lost control of his bladder and bowels in another exam room. I walked out of the exam hall and was immediately taken to the hospital by my parents. My parents just can't figure it out. My grades are terrible, so I've always had a good mindset when it comes to exams. How could I get so nervous that I had stomach cramps? In comparison, my cousin had it even worse, because the onset of the illness was too sensational. Specialists from the Municipal Key Hospital conducted a consultation. They examined the cousin like a test subject, over and over, yet they couldn't figure out what physical issue caused the examinee to have diarrhea that sprayed like a machine gun. Finally, the experts unanimously concluded that it must have been the immense psychological pressure during the college entrance exam that caused such an uncontrollable situation for my cousin. Grandma and Grandpa were crying and wailing in the hospital. My precious grandson, my dear boy, you've suffered so much. Precious has always been worry-free when it comes to his grades, a Harvard hopeful at school. Who knew he was under such immense psychological pressure? I passed by the emergency room's brightly lit red door, watching the wailing grandparents. If I didn't know better, I'd think my cousin had kicked the bucket. My dad and my mom exchanged a glance. They were debating whether to step forward. The moment Grandma saw me, she charged at me like a black-eyed chicken. You jinx, what are you doing at the hospital? Are you here to laugh at your cousin's illness? I thought to myself. So even Grandma thinks this is a joke. My mother shielded me behind her with a cold expression. My dad stepped forward to hold my grandma back. Mom, what are you doing? Lisa is also sick and just came out of another department. Grandma showed no concern for me at all. Instead, she glared at me resentfully. She's sick too. It must be her bad luck that was passed on to Precious. She deliberately doesn't want Precious to go to Harvard. My mom heard this and completely lost it. Is it bad luck when my daughter gets sick? But not when your precious grandson gets sick. Precious had explosive diarrhea in the exam hall, splattering the test papers of so many fellow examinees. Now that's truly an eye-opening stroke of bad luck. Old lady, go ahead and spew all the nonsense you want. Just see if the retribution doesn't land squarely on your precious grandson's asshole. Grandma's eyes widened as if struck by lightning. Her cursing mouth wanted to lash out but didn't dare anymore. My mother, seeing this, smiled silently. Children and grandchildren's suffering must be because the elders have sinned. Go ahead and curse and scold. My daughter has a tough fate, unlike your precious grandson who can't bear the weight of your karma. Grandma was so angry that smoke seemed to rise from her 7 orifices, her fists clenched, and her jaw grinding loudly. You can tell she was cursing a lot in her mind. Grandpa couldn't stand it and scolded her. Have you all had enough? Then he glared at my dad. You don't even know how to say a word. My father mumbled hesitantly. Dad, I'm not good with words. I take after you. You didn't say anything just now either, did you? Grandpa's face turned bright red, and with a wave of his hand, he told us to get out immediately. Our family had no choice but to leave. The difference was, my dad and I left with a sense of relief, while my mom left with sheer delight. To be honest, my mom used to be quite a refined person. Her sharp tongue was honed over more than a decade of arguments with my grandmother after marriage. Being able to outsmart Grandma would probably keep my mom happy until evening. All these years, my dad has always stood by my mom's side. It's mainly because Grandma went too far. Favoring boys over girls is one thing, but she even insisted that I have bad luck. More than a decade ago, my cousin and I were born almost at the same time, with our birth dates differing by just 1 hour. But my grandmother happened to believe a wandering charlatan. It was precisely because my cousin and I were born around the same time that our destinies were said to clash. When Grandma heard this, it was simply unacceptable. She insisted on sending me far away, no matter what. Of course, my parents wouldn't agree to it. From then on, Grandma never had a pleasant expression when she saw me. Both of my parents are educated, so naturally, they wouldn't treat me differently because of any superstitious beliefs. They knew my grandmother didn't like me, so I grew up living with my maternal grandmother in the city. I thought that, with my cousin and me living far apart and my grandmother not seeing me, time would eventually wash away the nonsense about us being incompatible. Unfortunately, my uncle's family didn't see it that way. After I started elementary school, my uncle's family moved to the city. When my family bought a large apartment, my uncle's family bought a townhouse in the same neighborhood. We were even placed in the same school, just in different classes. My aunt's clothing store is right across the street from my mom's workplace. We can't avoid running into each other. Just as we left the hospital, my uncle called almost immediately, as if it were an urgent summons. My dad was driving and asked my mom to answer the phone. My mom held the phone far away as she answered it. My uncle's furious voice immediately boomed through. "Zane, did anything just happen while you were driving?" My dad glanced at his phone with disdain. "Without me driving normally, what could possibly go wrong?" Uncle asked again. "I heard that Lisa is also sick. Is that true?" My mom rolled her eyes. "Bro, if there's nothing else, I'm hanging up." Hey. My mom ended the call and muted her phone. Even a gold miner couldn't dig up such an idiot, a few years ago. "Your eldest brother still cared about us a lot. Now he's just like your mom, thinking that if anything happens to his son, it's all Lisa's fault," my dad said calmly. "Eldest brother didn't say that. Anyway, with both kids having such an accident during the college entrance exam, let's just drop it." My mom turned to look at me from the passenger seat and comforted me, saying, "Lisa, we just need to do our best. Don't put too much pressure on yourself." I looked at the hurried WeChat message from my uncle and frowned slightly. "Lisa, is your dad really okay with driving? Why is uncle so worried about my dad driving?" It wasn't until we reached the parking lot of the residential complex that my mom got out of the car and noticed a piece of the car's rear side had been scraped off at some point. My dad took out a Tomcat sticker and covered up the scratched paint. "The company's finances are a bit tight, so let's leave it at that for now, otherwise, repairs would just be another expense." In the evening, I accidentally came across my classmate Lucy's social media post about her evening trip out of the city. "Today is really unlucky. Encountered a biochemical weapon in the exam hall, and just after leaving the city, I got rear-ended. For the rest of the journey, I hope the heavens treat me a little better." The accompanying image shows a 3-car pileup on an overpass, with the front car's rear completely smashed. In the corner of the photo, Uncle is angrily holding up his phone. What a coincidence. That evening, while reporting on the college entrance exam news, the television station selected a very blurry surveillance video clip. Suddenly, my cousin, who was sitting in his seat, raised his arm and shouted, "I can't take it anymore." As soon as he took a step, his pants fell down. Several examinees who were sitting nearby all suffered the consequences. The test paper was sprayed with disgusting feces. The television station even carefully pixelated the process of my cousin's buttocks erupting. My family hasn't turned on the TV for a long time. It was my dad who was reminded by an acquaintance. "I only saw that scene when I changed the channel." An acquaintance chuckled on the phone. "The TV station is something else. What's the point of blurring the butt? They should blur the face instead." My dad was so embarrassed he couldn't say a word. The video is blurry, but if it's someone familiar, how could anyone not recognize my cousin's imposing figure, standing at 6'3" and weighing 250 pounds? Once he sits on the ground, the more he struggles, the harder it is for him to get up. My mom let out a surprised, and changed the channel. My dad also hung up on his end. How could Precious be like this? "I wonder if her college entrance exam results will be affected," my mom said disdainfully. "If Precious is affected, Grandma will blame Lisa first. Even if you do well on the test, Grandma will first laugh and then scold Lisa." "I should care about Lisa first," my father sighed. "All the neighbors, relatives, and friends know that Precious is my nephew. If you're angry with Grandma, don't take it out on the child." My mom interrupted. "Oh, such a big build. Still a child. Grandma and Grandpa have spoiled Precious into acting like a child. Treating the college entrance exam hall like a preschool, can't even control basic bodily functions. Acquaintances are already calling our home. You should first think about how you're going to face the boss at the company tomorrow." While my parents were arguing, I kept looking at the messages on my phone. To put it without exaggeration, from the moment the college entrance exam ended, the incident of my cousin defecating in the exam hall quickly spread on various social media platforms. Locally related hashtags all ranked in the top 3. Many examinees in the same exam hall were affected to varying degrees in their performance. One female examinee vomited on the spot and later broke down in tears. Several candidates are still making statements online, vowing they will not let my cousin off the hook. The next day, after my father got off work, he still kindly went to the hospital to visit my cousin. In the hospital room, my cousin was playing games as if nothing had happened. He was already back to his usual self. Grandma was holding a bowl of chicken soup, fussing over him with concern. "Good grandson, come, have a sip of soup." The cousin glanced at the greasy chicken soup with disgust. "It smells awful, take it away." "I won't drink it." The more Grandma is disliked, the more loving her expression becomes. It's as if she can't feel the depth of her love for her grandson unless she feeds the chicken soup directly into his mouth. "Good grandson, be good. Just take a small sip." Grandma held a spoon in one hand and a bowl of soup in the other. Long, yellow nails were soaked in the soup. As his grandmother moved closer, the cousin impatiently flung his arm out. The strong chicken soup splashed all over the front of his grandmother's clothes. "Ah, Mom," the cousin was utterly fed up. "I told you not to come, but you insisted. Look, there are still chicken feathers in the soup. How can I drink it?" My father stepped into the hospital room and helped Grandma up. "Precious, is this any way to behave? My cousin isn't afraid of my dad at all. In fact, he seems to look down on him." "Uncle, why aren't you slaving away at the company? What are you doing here?" My dad was furious. "Is this how you speak to your elders? Where are your parents? I'll ask them how they raised you." My cousin curled his lips. "Go ahead and look. My parents are big business owners, not like you, Uncle, who has all the time in the world to watch over someone else's son." My dad was about to scold my cousin but was stopped by my grandmother. "Precious is just right. You're not allowed to bully him." Grandma's wet and oily clothes emitted a strange odor, making my father instinctively step back. My cousin sat by the hospital bed and said, "Uncle, trying to win me over now is useless." My father seemed to have heard something utterly absurd. "I'm trying to please you." My cousin's attitude was arrogant and smug. "Exactly. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. My usual mock exam scores are good enough to get into Harvard. Even if I mess up the last subject, I can still pick and choose from top 1 or top 2 universities." "Uncle, I really understand you. You have no son, and Lisa is a hopeless student destined for a vocational college. You fuss over me at my sickbed. Isn't it just because you want to rely on me in the future? The James family's ancestral graves are smoking, and it all depends on me now." My dad was speechless for a moment, then immediately exploded. "Go to hell, you idiot." "Mom, this is the child you've spoiled. Not only did you spew nonsense during the exam, but you're also doing it right in front of me." Upon hearing the words, "spew nonsense," my cousin's face turned pale. "Grandma is acting more anxious than my cousin." "Shut your mouth. Who allowed you to bring up that pooping incident?" "Precious, that's called irritable bowel syndrome. You're just jealous, you're just insecure. It's not like Precious is your son." My dad was kicked out of the hospital room. He came back and told my mom about it. My mom had long lost any illusions about my grandmother's family. "What's the big deal? Hasn't your mom treated Lisa this way for over a decade? Big brother and sister-in-law have been doing better and better in the stock market these past few years. Now that Precious is about to get into a good university, your mom doesn't want you anymore." "Huh?" My dad let out a bitter laugh, full of grievance. Things like, "No son to rely on, I need to please my nephew," and "the ancestors' graves are smoking with good fortune." These aren't things young people today would say. It must be that my parents and my brother's family often talk about it, so Precious has been influenced by it. Originally, I thought my older brother still cared about me as his younger brother. After all, he bought a house in the same neighborhood as us, his 2 children have been going to the same school for over a decade, and he often asks how I'm doing from time to time. It seemed like he cared. But now it's clear that it was just about comparison and showing off. My mother was even more displeased. A few years ago, my sister-in-law's clothing store was right across from my workplace, and my colleague went in to browse while passing by. My sister-in-law first asked if my colleague and I were in the same department, then immediately inquired about our salaries, benefits, and subsidies, wanting to know the total annual income. My colleague was reluctant to answer, and my sister-in-law immediately made a sour face, even calling them poor after they left the store. "Is this how you show concern for relatives, not being straightforward?" I fear my brother might suffer, yet also fear he might drive a Land Rover. My parents were still angrily discussing something, but I didn't listen carefully. Looking back now, my uncle's family indeed maintained a constant, yet seemingly ordinary, attention toward our family. Usually, my uncle and aunt enjoy probing about our family's income in a roundabout way. After knowing, they always show an expression of either joy, dissatisfaction, or frustration at one's lack of progress. Up to this point, it was still normal, until my cousin and I started elementary school together. I really have no talent for studying, I've been working so hard, yet my grades are always in the lower middle of the class. In contrast, my cousin spends all day just having fun, but every time the results come out, his total score is always at the top, at first. My parents also tried everything to get me into tutoring classes and do practice problems, all to improve my grades, but they spent over a decade of time and effort, only to prove one truth about me: I am indeed a mediocrity. My cousin, however, is a self-taught genius. Because of this, I was often ridiculed by others since childhood. The more I thought about it, the more frustrated I felt. So I started organizing the exam papers from the past year or so. Just a few days before the college entrance exam, many of my classmates tore up their textbooks, workbooks, and exam papers, turning them into flurries of white paper snow. It was like a grand and romantic farewell to their youth, but I didn't do that, mainly because I wanted to sell them as scrap paper. Selling for a few $dozen is also the price of youthful hard work, although it's cheap. But my achievements are indeed worthless. My phone suddenly gave a notification. It's the school's confession wall. A popular post from a junior student was recommended to me. The title is, "Never put a halo on academic geniuses, especially the ones who are full of hot air." Turns out, a sophomore girl, before the college entrance exams, went through several rounds of bidding with a few classmates and finally spent a high price to buy her cousin's senior year study materials. I thought I could gain a lot of valuable insights from it, however. Aside from the slightly worn-out cover, the stack of materials was either blank, scribbled all over, or filled with my cousin's sharp comments on the appearance and figures of many girls in each class. Comments like, "Worth sleeping with," "Must be mind-blowing in bed," "With curves so impressive, it'd be a waste not to touch." Truly a lustful youth. It was even more explicit and vulgar than a red light district. After receiving it, the junior was completely shocked and went to her cousin to ask for a refund. Not only did the cousin refuse to return the money, but he also gave her a harsh lecture on how to behave. Even if I didn't do well on the last subject, my college entrance exam score would definitely be above 700. You should just worship me quietly. Why do you have to stir up trouble? Just wait until my college entrance exam score slaps you in the face, you little bitch. The furious underclassman angrily wrote a 10,000-word rant and posted it as proof. I just want to see how many points this perverted sex maniac can actually score. 700 points. My cousin had made it onto the list in the previous mock exams, but my grades were really poor, and my parents, being considerate of my feelings, didn't compare me to my cousin. I quickly found my cousin's scores from the recent major exams. Damn, me, 360 points, cousin, 720 points, me, 356 points, cousin, 712 points, me, 345 points, cousin, 690 points. My scores are hovering around 350 points. Cousin's total scores in these recent exams have all exceeded 700 points, and each time, it's exactly double my total score. This is just too damn coincidental. I didn't sleep all night, besides comparing the scores of all the important exams from my 3 years of high school. I even dug up all the test scores of my cousins from elementary and middle school that I could find, every major exam. My cousin's score is always double that of mine, a poor student, for other small tests and the like. The scores are also nearly double. Seeing the sky outside the window turning gray with dawn, I lay slumped on the floor, my vision blurry with exhaustion, surrounded by books, test papers, scratch paper, and so on. I'm not sure if this counts as proving anything. Everything is multiplied by 2, double kill. Isn't it just like seeing a ghost in the morning? Mom and Dad are getting ready for work. Seeing my ghost-like complexion, they couldn't help but be startled. My mom glared at me. "Lisa, even though the college entrance exams are over, you can't just let yourself go like this." My dad was holding his breath. "I never expected you to get into Tsinghua or Peking University, but you can't just go wild after finishing the big exam." I drank soy milk dejectedly. I sighed casually. Maybe I really have bad luck. My mom got anxious right away. "What do you mean, bad luck? Your grandma was just talking nonsense and cursing you. How could you believe that?" My dad said seriously. "Lisa, how can you say that? You're a girl, you've been weak and sickly since childhood, and your grades are just average. But when have your mother and I ever complained or thought you were worse than others? Once a person starts thinking they're not good enough and uses that as an excuse, they won't be able to face challenges in the future, or they'll just give up. You're not allowed to say things like that again." Before he could finish, my dad's phone started vibrating. The caller ID showed it was Grandma. My dad held back for a moment but eventually answered, "Zane, it's terrible. Precious has been playing games for a whole day and night, and he's passed out." Grandma was crying loudly, without using speakerphone. My mom and I felt as if we were right there at the scene. My dad also yelled back, "Then why did you let the child play for a whole day and night?" Grandma felt extremely wronged. Why would he ever listen to me? My dad asked again, "What about your brother and sister-in-law?" "Your brother and sister-in-law have been arguing since yesterday. They finally calmed down this morning. They will probably come over." My dad chuckled wryly. "If you can, you can. If you can't, you can't." "What do you mean by, I'll figure it out?" "Precious scolded me so harshly yesterday. Why are you calling me? Let his own parents take care of him." With that, she hung up. My mother snorted coldly. "Even diarrhea made the headlines, so what's the big deal about having fun for a whole day and night?" Then he pointed at me. "Don't copy that." My mind was filled with the echoing game prompt, double kill, double kill, double kill. I have stomach cramps while my cousin has severe diarrhea. The back of my dad's car was scraped equals my uncle was rear-ended by 2 cars. I stayed up late equals my cousin didn't sleep for a full day and night. My parents had a verbal argument over my cousin equals my uncle and aunt had a big fight, and my terrible grades, and my cousin's ridiculously high scores. What a bizarre coincidence. What a clever double buff. Is every aspect of our family's life just a reference for my uncle's family, with every fortune and misfortune replicated with a double effect? Is there some kind of cheat mechanism in this world that my uncle's family has mastered? How is this even possible? Next, as if possessed, I wanted to continue testing the possibility of the double effect, but my mom is away on a business trip. My father also became busy with work. My uncle and aunt started to appear and disappear unpredictably. Not only did they stop going to the hospital, but the clothing store also closed, with only my cousin and me as the 2 reference groups. Can the verification be reliable? My cousin has been discharged from the hospital, because the news of his diarrhea was too sensational. He moved to our grandparents' house in the countryside. I really don't want to go to our grandparents' house and be a bother. I was aimlessly searching online for explanations and evidence of this phenomenon. I followed a bunch of accounts related to sci-fi, fantasy, and the supernatural. It sent chills down my spine. My cousin was also feeling uneasy at home. I always say I feel so scared, yet so curious, so thrilling, and so excited. My mood goes up and down. My heart pounds thump thump. Grandma thought my cousin hadn't fully recovered, so she took him to the hospital for another checkup. After hearing my cousin's description, the doctor just thought Grandma should find a psychologist for him. Grandma scoffed. My good grandson couldn't possibly have a mental illness. The doctor told her to do as she pleased. Grandma was at a loss and afraid of taking responsibility, so she called her eldest uncle and aunt. Uncle said he was too busy and had no time to deal with these matters, telling her to go to the child's mother. Then he asked how my dad was doing. Aunt was traveling out of town, broke her leg, and is now in the hospital with a caregiver. After losing her temper with Grandma, she pressed on and asked how my mom was doing. My grandmother was baffled and, too embarrassed to approach my parents, anxiously turned to me. "Lisa, where are your parents? Why aren't they answering my calls?" I rambled on about unrelated things and hung up. My dad's company is having problems, and he's now staying there day and night, so busy that he doesn't even have time to reply to my messages. My mom sprained her ankle while buying local specialties on a business trip, but she continued working at the destination and will return once her foot feels better. I compared the situations at my home and my uncle's home. It can only be described as a coincidence. There is no solid evidence. Until the day I checked my college entrance exam results, I had already given up any hope for my scores. My parents had even saved up the tuition for a private college in advance, but then the webpage refreshed. The phrase, 480 points, has dazzled my 18-year-old gold-spending eyes. Oh ho ho, heaven has opened its eyes and seen me. I thank the heavens, I thank the earth. And I thank myself. As I was dancing with joy, my cousin made a voice call. I instinctively answered it. My cousin roared as if he had lost his mind. "Aren't you useless, Lisa? How did you score so well?" I snapped awake instantly. "No, why does Precious get to insult me? Are you out of your damn mind? You, who usually score over 700, think I did well. Has your brain gone to shit too?" Precious was so furious that she started crying. "I've already asked the teacher, and you scored 480. You've been a failure for 18 years, how could you suddenly perform so well? Just you wait, I'm not done with you." "Ah, I continued to scold. What's so great about a score of 480? You're insane. Go ask anyone on the street. Can this score get you into Harvard? You even called me a useless Precious. I won't let this go. Oh. For the first 18 years, I really didn't dare to talk to Precious like this. Now, I even overperformed in the college entrance exam. I'm just terrifyingly strong. As I hung up the phone, I suddenly thought of something extremely important. The maximum score for the college entrance exam is not 960, so, what score did Precious actually get on the college entrance exam? It is said that before the results came out, Grandpa, surrounded by a crowd of villagers, was boasting loudly, over 700 points. Not just in our village for generations, but even in the city, there are only a few who achieve that, from now on. My precious grandson will surely be the pride of the entire city. By then, the village chief will have to create a separate family tree just for my grandson. Someone asked about my parents and me. Zane, well, he's just the same. They say he's one of the company's founders, but he still earns a wage like a workhorse. My eldest son can make twice as much with a single move in the stock market, compared to his hard-earned income. As for the daughter, she's not too bright either. Her scores are only good enough for a vocational college. It's embarrassing. Grandma, among the aunts and relatives, held her head high and puffed out her chest, flaunting the prestige of the soon-to-be top scholar's grandmother. My eldest son and daughter-in-law are busy with important matters. They were too occupied to come. This eldest grandson was raised entirely by me. His parents didn't have a hand in it, and he still scored over 700. He's had this score in all 3 mock exams. Precious is definitely going to be the first from our village to get into Harvard. At the entrance of the village committee, the village chief and the respected elders were eagerly hoping that the top scholar would come from their own village. Other candidates from the same year in the village usually did not score as high as Precious, who had over 700 points. In front of him, they inexplicably felt inferior. Precious exuded an aura of dominance between his brows. A fellow villager couldn't help but ask the top student, "How did you do it?" "Just play as much as you want, relax, and the answers will automatically pop into your head when you're in the exam hall. I don't really use my brain. I'm just a messenger for the standard answers, can't help it." Who told me I'm just an ordinary little genius with over 700 points? Anyway, just do whatever makes people uncomfortable. The college graduate village official also set up a fairly large outdoor display screen. It was guaranteed that, at the right time, the computer screen would be projected so that the entire village could see it immediately. About half an hour before the scores were released, a group of people arrived at the village entrance. Fiercely, they asked everyone they met, "Where is Grandpa?" The bewildered villagers pointed them in the right direction. This group of people strode with an arrogant swagger to the village committee, shouting menacingly, "James, do you think hiding means you don't have to pay back the money? Get the hell out here right now." The grandpa, who was bragging, trembled 3 times and nearly choked on his own saliva. The grandma, who was showing off, was so frightened that she fell flat on her back, crying out in pain. Upon hearing this, the villagers automatically scattered. The grandpa coughed until his face turned red, his whole body shaking like a leaf. Grandma cried out in pain, pleading for someone to help her up. The leader of the group of debt collectors was stunned for a moment, looking around at all the men, women, and elders of the village gathered together. Were the elderly beaten by the whole village? That's too brutal. The village committee member asked, "What are you looking for James for?" "Nothing much, just to get him to pay back the money. He tricked our boss into investing in the stock market, saying it was a sure win if he followed his lead. At first, it made a profit, but then it plummeted like a waterfall." The college graduate village official stood up and said, "Isn't this just a normal investment loss? Bullshit. The principal James used for stock trading was borrowed from our boss. And there are dozens of other creditors, totaling over 24 million yuan. Where has he gone? I can't find him, so can't I go to his parents, or even his own son?" His son is easy to recognize. He's the one who had a public accident during the college entrance exam. The grandparents immediately felt ashamed. The cousin was instantly mortified. People around cast looks of disdain and disgust. A candidate who had just been completely outperformed by his cousin, he then slipped over to the computer, opened the query system, and entered the information. The college entrance exam scores are out. Precious scored 240. The last exclamation was earth-shattering. Everyone saw the screen, including the debt collectors. The leader murmured, "Precious, can something useless be Precious?" No, Precious is James' biological son, the one who had diarrhea during the college entrance exam. My cousin's imposing figure really stands out in a crowd. debt collectors don't even need to chase. Just surround them and it's done. My cousin's mountain-like body trembled uncontrollably, his face was a mix of shock and devastation, tears and snot flying out uncontrollably. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Give me the phone, I need to call the teacher. Lisa, you've ruined me. When I shared the good news of my unexpectedly high performance on the college entrance exam in our family group chat of 3, my parents, who hadn't been home for several weeks, said little else but replied solemnly with one sentence, Lisa, wait for us to come home. When my exhausted parents returned home and sat at the dining table, they finally told me the truth. My father was criticized at the company because the supplier he signed with ran off with the money. My mom wasn't going on a business trip to another city, she was going to help my dad collect a debt. My dad looked dejected, his hair disheveled. The company's stance is to recover the funds as soon as possible, or else dad will lose his job. My mom's face was pale, and she sniffled. It's just as well that you lost your job. Your dad's company hasn't paid salaries for half a year, and the lower-level employees have protested several times. Mom's workplace has actually been cutting benefits too, leaving only a base salary of $2,000 or $3,000. After what happened to your dad, I applied for a leave of absence without pay. There were many questions I wanted to ask, but in the end, I only managed to ask weakly, Mom, how did you sprain your ankle? Mom heard that someone saw the supplier in the neighboring city. She drove to chase after the supplier and accidentally sprained her ankle, but she's fine now. My dad turned his head and said excitedly, why were you so impulsive? If it weren't for the airbag, you would have done more than just sprain your ankle. My mom suddenly burst into tears. Your company is now being run by treacherous officials. You've worked like an old ox for half a lifetime. How can you let them slander you as conspiring to defraud the company? The lawyer said the evidence is against you. If you really can't find the supplier, you'll have to bear over $10 million in liability. Over $10 million, I can help you pay it back. But what about Lisa? I didn't want Lisa to know about this, but word from the countryside says your uncle is in trouble. Apparently, he owes over $20 million. My family is in such a state. My grandparents are acting like they've gone mad, demanding that my dad return to the countryside immediately to help resolve my uncle's debt. My dad blurted out everything about the supplier absconding with the funds. Apart from cursing and shouting, my grandparents didn't offer a single word of comfort. My dad and my mom discussed, if we get divorced, I can drive for Didi, deliver food, or work on construction sites. I'll take care of the debt. Lisa stays with you. Keep some money so you can have a normal life. My mom didn't agree. Are you trying to push yourself to death? If something goes wrong, does it mean we get divorced? What about your parents? What about your older brother? Your older brother owes money, and as soon as the creditors showed up, your parents took out $600,000. We're both our parents' children, so why are you the only one expected to come up with a solution for your older brother? My father was originally dejected, but upon hearing this, he became excited, because they just look down on me. No matter how hard I try to prove myself, they are biased and unwilling to invest their money and emotions in me. I came to the city to work by passing the exams. I had no resources, no connections, and no background. I managed to establish myself in the city entirely on my own. My eldest brother's family came to the city to rent a house, and all the travel expenses were paid by our parents. Later, when our family's situation improved and my eldest brother's family also prospered, our parents looked down on me even more. This is my parents. They chose my eldest brother to take care of them in their old age early on, to carry on the family line, while I was the one they gave up on. I especially can't let you and Lisa go to the countryside to plead with my parents on my behalf. I don't want you to feel humiliated for me or suffer in vain. My mother clenched her teeth, then find a way to sue the company. I can't let you take the blame, and I won't divorce you either. At a time like this, Precious still sent me a WeChat message. Lisa, don't think you're so great just because you performed exceptionally well on the college entrance exam. Your family is destined to be at the bottom. Tell your dad to hurry up and figure out a way to pay back all the money. Don't let your family's misfortune bring both our families down. I stared at my phone, but my mind was unusually calm. Doesn't what Precious said these times indicate that he also knew about the double effect long ago? My father has to bear over $10 million in payments, and my uncle also owes more than $20 million. I scored 480 points, while Precious only got 240 points. This is the best verification of double fortune and misfortune. Suddenly, there was the sound of glass shattering in the living room. My father, as if in a daze, poured himself a cup of hot water. In a moment of carelessness, the scalding hot water spilled onto the top of his foot. My mother tried to help my father, who was sitting on the floor, can't get up, hands on the ground, accidentally pressed onto broken glass. Finally, my parents sat back to back. Like battle-worn warriors knocked down by life, with nothing left to say, tears streamed down my face. Everyone, stay still, let me handle it. The uncle was quickly found by the police. It's quite bizarre, to say the least. The couple was found because they got into a fight at a hot pot restaurant. The uncle had his feet scalded by the overturned hot pot broth. The aunt slammed her palm and shattered the entire aquarium wall of the hot pot restaurant. The couple screamed in agony on their own. Bleeding profusely, fish all over the floor flapped their tails desperately, struggling to survive. What a scene, you'd think they were filming an action movie here. The unlucky hot pot restaurant owner called the police. At the police station, the uncle's leg was bandaged up like a pig's trotter. The aunt's handbag turned into a bear's paw. Both of them had different bruises on their bodies and faces, yet they continued to argue incessantly. The aunt pointed at the uncle with her bear's paw. You said that by tying it to your brother's family, it would be a sure profit, didn't you? My shop went bankrupt in the past 6 months, I've spent all my money, and my face suddenly looks 20 years older. The worst part is Precious. How did he end up having diarrhea in the college entrance exam hall? How did his score drop to just 240 points? And the debt you owe, your son, he's completely ruined. The uncle sat down and slammed the table forcefully. Shut up, all these years. The food you've eaten, the drinks you've had, the things you've used, which of them wasn't thanks to me? With that shabby shop of yours, how much have you really earned? Barely enough to cover your facials. For over a decade, we were doing just fine. Who would have thought Zane would be so useless, ending up with over 10 million in debt in his middle age? It's all his fault. My stocks, my money. I'll settle the score with him once I get out. When Uncle said this, our family was right outside the mediation room. My mom took the initiative as soon as she entered. What do you mean it was Zane's fault? The uncle and aunt, disheveled and bruised, looked both startled and embarrassed. They averted their eyes, not daring to look directly at my mother. My mother rolled up her sleeves. Let's get this straight today. How can you possibly blame Zane for the money you lost in the stock market, Uncle? Uncle was left in an awkward position and could only force a grin at my dad. Can you control her? My dad remained calm and composed. My wife can say whatever she wants. I'm also curious. How have I wronged you, big brother? How could Uncle have the nerve to say that he had triggered some kind of double effect? Aunt pointed at me and lashed out. It's all because of the daughter you gave birth to. Her fate clashes with Precious's. If she does well in exams, Precious will suffer. Poor Precious is capable of getting into Harvard. My dad immediately walked up to my aunt. My daughter has been weak and sickly since birth. Did she bring bad luck to your Precious, who is strong and healthy, or to your thriving family business? My mother retorted sharply. I thought it was Precious who suppressed Lisa's 18 years of good luck, all thanks to Lisa's hard work later on. Evil cannot prevail over good, which is how she managed to turn the tables and surpass her. Sister-in-law, if you want to settle accounts, then I want to settle accounts too. How are you going to compensate for the 18 years of good luck that Precious suppressed for Lisa? The aunt was left speechless by this reverse logic. Just one sentence came out. If I gave birth to a boy, he should be protected by heaven. My mother sneered. You should have the awareness of being inferior. Why open a clothing store in the city? Wouldn't it be better to go home and serve your precious son as a housekeeper? Uncle actually nodded and shook his head in agreement. Everyone says a woman shouldn't run a store and show her face in public. It's not like I can't support you. If you go home and watch over Precious, he wouldn't have done so poorly on his exams. The aunt went forward to tear at the uncle again. Pa, you're deliberately treating me like a slave. Who do you look down on? I'll fight you to the death. They started fighting again. My mother shook her head repeatedly. Look, even those with low cognition don't want to be inferior, so why cling to this nonsense of male superiority and female inferiority? My dad grabbed my mom. From now on, let's not have any more contact between our two families. My parents probably just think my uncle's family is unreasonable and shifting the blame. I've finally figured it out. My uncle's family has been deliberately tying themselves to our family for over a decade. My uncle's family are nothing but freeloaders. As our family prospers, they also benefit from the double effect, enjoying unearned advantages. Our family is down on our luck, so their family should suffer twice as much. Sure enough, the next moment, the police informed us that not only did uncle and aunt provoke trouble, but they are also suspected of fundraising fraud under the guise of stock trading. With the amount involved shockingly reaching over a dozen small targets, Even if uncle and aunt hadn't fought and ended up at the police station, they would still be waiting to be locked up in a small dark room. Lisa, just as we stepped out of the police station, I saw my classmate Lucy leaning out of a car. Are you back from your trip? Lucy hopped out of the car and warmly took my hand. Lisa, my dear, you're such a treasure. Thanks to you constantly guiding me through practice questions and mock exams before the test, I made it to the undergraduate admission line. I almost forgot, both Lucy and I are in the same study group. All the students in the group have pretty poor grades, and as the college entrance exam approaches, everyone is getting more and more restless. Many people end up unable to study anymore. Only Lucy and I, since we were bored anyway, teamed up to predict and practice exam questions before the test. As it turned out, we actually predicted several subjects correctly in this college entrance exam. Who says last-minute cramming is useless? What a divine experience it is to encounter questions I know on the college entrance exam paper. My parents watched with amusement as Lucy and I chattered away like little sparrows. If it weren't for our commitments, Lisa should have gone on the graduation trip too. Once the results are out, it'll be time to fill out the college applications. I never expected Lisa to score so well. A man with slick back hair and a black suit waved at us enthusiastically. That's Lucy's father, Hank Lincoln. He has the same thick eyebrows and big eyes as Lucy. Hello, sir and madam, where are you headed? Let me give you a ride. My dad coughed. I'm Zane, and this is my wife, Helen. Hank smiled brightly. Oh, no worries. I heard Lisa and Lucy are good friends. Let me walk you out. Our car hasn't been repaired yet after the accident in the neighboring city. Hank was hard to refuse. Our family ended up taking a ride in the Lincoln family's car. Hank flashed his big white teeth and didn't stop smiling once he got in the car. I often hear Lucy say that Lisa tutors her. I'm not smart, and Lucy doesn't have good grades either. I had already planned to send my daughter to an expensive private university and then have her come back to work in the family business. I never expected that she would actually score above the undergraduate admission line in the college entrance exam, even if it was just barely. I'm over the moon. My parents looked at me with a mix of emotions, as if to say, one underachiever teaching another, one dares to teach, and the other dares to learn. Lucy chimed in as well. Yeah, it was during the last exam when Precious, he took off his pants. He was shameless. I'm so fed up. That subject was the one I was most confident in. Hank retracted his big white teeth. Don't worry, my dear daughter, your dad won't let him off the hook. That scumbag's deadbeat dad, running a fundraising scam, cheated my boss out of his money. I guarantee he won't get out once he's in. The air in the car grew tense. What a small world. The creditor who came to the village to press uncle for repayment turned out to be Hank. Lucy in the passenger seat spoke up again. Dad, Precious is such a jerk. He even bullied Lisa, back in elementary school. He would gather a bunch of boys after class to make up songs mocking Lisa, calling her useless, jerk. Lisa isn't stupid at all. The reason she struggled so much with school back then was because Precious kept putting her down. Bastard. Precious even bullies his own cousin. Serves him right for only scoring 240 points. Serves him right, cousin. Mr. Zane is your family name, James. The three of us in the back seat buried our heads, searching for a crack in the car. Lucy took me to a welfare home. She handed the report card to an elderly man with white hair. Boss, Lucy here. I made it to the undergraduate cutoff score. The old man was stunned and remained silent for a while. Picking up the phone, he examined it carefully, and finally, a relieved smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Good, good. Little Lucy is indeed even wilder than Hank, but after chatting for just a few sentences, he started coughing again. The caregiver helped the elderly man back to his room to rest. Among the victims defrauded by my uncle in the name of stock trading was the former director of this welfare institution. My father was an orphan and was quite a troublemaker when he was young. The old director said, since you're so fond of hanging out with the wrong crowd, why not just call me boss? The old director had very little savings his entire life. He trusted someone's investment pitch, hoping to earn money to support the welfare institution, but ended up losing everything. At that time, Lucy and I were sitting on the swings in the small playground of the orphanage. I felt quite conflicted upon hearing it. Lucy's father and the old director had no blood relation, yet he was willing to bring people to the director's doorstep to demand an explanation. My father and uncle were both the children of my grandparents, yet my grandparents showed endless favoritism toward my uncle's family. Uncle's family is also greedy, because of the double effect. They can get twice the wealth of our family without any effort, but uncle still feels it's not enough and wants more. In his early years, Uncle was approached by a financial company and packaged as a stock trading master because he boasted in a stock trading group that he made money on everything he bought. Living in cheat mode for too long, one really forgets their own worth. The uncle was portrayed as a master, and he actually started to believe it, started teaching classes. Also opened a self-media account. Now, uncle and aunt are in the detention room, although it's due to the double effect. Isn't it still their own doing, Lisa? Lucy stood up from the swing and said joyfully, "My dad helped your dad find that missing supplier." Lucy's dad, Hank, is actually a very righteous and warm-hearted person. He owns a security company. The company also takes on missing persons cases as part of its daily operations, because I helped Lucy get into college. Hank not only didn't hold a grudge against my family but also put aside past grievances to help my dad find that missing supplier. The supplier didn't run off with the money. Instead, he went to rescue a drowning child and was swept downstream to a remote mountain village. Lucy excitedly held up her phone, showing us the photos her dad had sent. In the photos, Hank and my dad were gathered around the supplier, who looked like Tarzan. The supplier has a full beard and his hair is all matted, looking quite miserable. That place doesn't even have a signal, and the villagers speak their own dialect. They're self-sufficient and can go years without leaving the mountains. Luckily, my dad knows a few adventure bloggers, but I doubt they could even make it into those mountains. Lisa, now that we've found the supplier, does that mean your dad has a better chance of winning the lawsuit? I nodded excitedly and haphazardly. Just as I was about to message my dad, I saw a message from my grandma. "Lisa, go tell your parents right away that you won't be going to college this year and will be retaking the exams. You're still young and have great potential. You only scored 480 this year. But if you retake the exams next year, you might do even better. There are plenty of people who, after repeating a year, perform worse than they did the previous year." Grandma still wants to use me as a stepping stone for Precious. Faced with these two messages, I suddenly realized that as long as the double effect isn't lifted for a day, even if my father wins the lawsuit, my uncle's family will remain unscathed and continue to live their unearned, carefree lives as before. A plan began to form in my mind. My hands were quickly typing out rebellious words. "I won't. You look down on us. But you always want to take advantage of us. We will never let you control us again." After sending the message, I blocked my grandparents and my cousin. Just as I expected, a few days later, I heard that my dad had returned, and sure enough, my grandparents brought Precious to our house to cause a scene. "You have to give me an answer today. Are you going to save your brother or not?" Grandma yelled, shaking her head. My dad explained wearily, "Mom, I still have a lawsuit involving over 10 million that hasn't been settled yet, a scam worth billions, and my brother dared to get involved. How can I possibly save him?" Grandpa pushed my cousin into the spotlight again. "He's your nephew. After all, you have to take responsibility, right?" My cousin looked like a humiliated prisoner of war, not even daring to look my father in the eye. My father waved his hand dismissively. "Is repeating a grade really that difficult, Grandpa? Don't you know what happened to Precious during the exam? Which local school wouldn't bully her? Can't you help find a school in another city?" My dad seemed to hear something amusing. With his build, is he afraid of being bullied? How could he forget the time he organized the boys to bully Lisa when he was a kid? "Aren't you afraid I'll bully him first?" My cousin suddenly looked up and glared angrily at my dad. "You're my uncle. You have to take care of me, if nothing else. I can carry on the family line for you. Isn't that enough?" My dad really does laugh when he's at a loss for words. "You've spent too much time with Grandma and Grandpa. Your brain is stuck in the Qing dynasty. I have Lisa. What do I need you for?" "Lisa is my daughter, and she's not a top student. Mom and Dad, you don't like her, but I can't change your minds. But Lisa has never let me down. She made me proud with her college entrance exam results, and this time, the turning point in the lawsuit was thanks to her connections, which helped me find the key witness." Hearing this, Grandma and Grandpa rolled their eyes indifferently. My dad continued to scold. "What about you, Precious? When your parents had an accident, what did you do besides hiding at your grandparents' house? With such low scores on the college entrance exam, couldn't you even manage to retake it and do better?" My cousin suddenly stood up, clenching his fists. His figure instantly overshadowed my father. My father no longer cared. "Go ahead, I guarantee you'll get to see your parents." My cousin didn't dare anymore, because of the double effect. If my dad gets hurt, my uncle will only get hurt even worse. Precious has no money, no parents, and doesn't need to get herself involved. Instead, my grandparents just sat there, not speaking or stopping him, their eyes gleaming with eager excitement. They seemed eager to see Precious beat up my dad. As if to vent their anger for them, my dad directly kicked the guests out. "Everyone, get out of here." As she left, Precious had a look of reckless and ignorant hatred in her eyes. It's really infuriating. As an academic underachiever, he has enjoyed over a decade of the glory of being a top student and reaped all the benefits. What on earth does he have to hate? That's right. Those who enjoy eating lamb skewers would never consider how the lamb skewer feels. This time, I will use Precious to regain the upper hand. I sent him a WeChat message. "Precious, look who's at the bottom now." Precious was furiously sending voice messages, roaring in anger. "Lisa, I'm going to kill you." I continued to provoke him. "Do you think no one knows what your parents are tied to? If my dad gets into legal trouble, your dad will go to jail. I got into a university, and you can't even afford the worst vocational college. You still dare to offend me. I'm going to drink weight loss pills later. Just wait to see yourself trending again." After hanging up the phone, I drank a full cup of weight loss tea. The effect was immediate. At the same time, a pig slaughter-like scream was heard in the residential area. "Ah, help, get out of the way." Then, exclamations of shock rose one after another. "There's a pervert taking off his pants. This damn lunatic is spewing nonsense. Disgusting. Call the police. Precious is trending again." When being carried away by the ambulance, they were still lying on the stretcher, spewing nonsense incessantly. The air at the scene was once nauseating. Grandma and Grandpa ran faster than anyone else. It turned out they were very wise. As soon as the hot search broke out, the victims who had been scammed by the uncle went to the hospital and blocked Precious again. Precious begged for mercy while crying. The victims showed him no pity. In just a few moments, he was made to voluntarily return tens of thousands of dollars. That money was the last sum his aunt had left for him. Now, he has no money and has no choice but to return to the countryside to find his grandparents. There are also victims in the same village who were deceived by his uncle. These people come to the door every day, and even his grandparents can no longer stay. So, his grandparents locked the door and left early. This doesn't stump Precious either. Just pry the door open, go inside, and fall fast asleep. The next day, Precious woke up naturally. After playing a round of Honor of Kings, the phone immediately alerted that the battery was low. Precious plugged in the charger but found it wasn't working. Wanting to wash my face with water, not a single drop came out. I thought about calling for help, but then suddenly remembered that I need to avoid the villagers now. He also discovered that the fuse at his grandparents' house had been cut, and the water valve had been shut off. The stored food in the cellar had also been taken away, leaving only a few sweet potatoes. In the surveillance footage, Precious was furious. "Damn it, isn't it just a little money I owe you? Is it really necessary to be so nasty?" Of course it is. When we were kids, Precious used to like having people surround me. The boys are all taller than me, making me seem very short. They jump and sing, calling me a useless little thing. Verbal bullying is like knives, guns, and clubs, stripping away all my dignity and confidence with every word. This time, I'm going to trap Precious and see how many days he can hide in this empty yard. The next few days, Precious didn't dare to cook during the day, afraid of making noise and alerting the neighbors. He could only boil water at night and eat the sweet potatoes stored in the cellar. But how could I be willing to let him hide so comfortably? The next day, a self-media blogger holding a phone and live streaming appeared on the wall of the small courtyard. "Hello everyone, this farmhouse is the home of the locally famous diarrhea boy. I've heard that this family has a very bad reputation. The grandparents favor boys over girls, and the parents are suspected of fraud." As for the incident where diarrhea boy publicly released a biochemical weapon in the college entrance examination hall, is it a personal quirk or an act of revenge against society? The camera panned and just happened to capture Precious emerging from the cellar. The streamer, reminded by the bullet comments, immediately let out a piercing scream. It's the diarrhea boy. He's actually hiding at home. A single stone raises 1,000 waves. Hearing that there was still someone inside the house, the villagers quickly surrounded the small courtyard, layer upon layer. Inside the remote-controlled car by the street, Lucy and I were watching the live stream together, where Precious was chasing people all over the yard with a big broom. He probably hadn't taken a shower for several days. He looked completely disheveled and covered in dust. Tears had carved 2 pale streaks down his face. "All of you, get out, I have no money." The villagers were all talking at once. "Precious, how could your family possibly have no money? Precious, we've all watched you grow up. How can you refuse to pay your debts? I know your grandparents all too well, you're their pride and joy, the money is definitely meant for you. It was the college graduate village official who came with the village cadres to persuade the villagers who had gathered to demand repayment, along with that self-media blogger who was there for the spectacle. Before leaving, the college graduate village official also advised Precious, the fraud case involving your family is a settled matter. Hurry up and tell your grandparents to stop hiding. What can you alone and the village possibly accomplish? Precious must be absolutely furious with his grandparents right now. They always claimed to care so much about him, but at the critical moment, they abandoned him and ran away, leaving him to face the scorn and anger of the entire village alone. But how could he have known? Actually, I had given Grandpa and Grandma the fake news that Precious was going out of town, sending them away early. I went to great lengths, just to leave him with nothing and completely isolated. People like Precious make mistakes. He would never reflect on himself and would instead shift all the blame onto others. He takes it for granted that his family's misfortune must be due to the double effect caused by my family's influence in today's farce. The more afraid Precious feels deep down, the more he wants to beg someone to quickly undo the double effect. In the dead of night, Precious indeed took advantage of the darkness to escape. Lucy's bodyguards followed her all the way. Precious fled deep into a remote, wild forest, and the bodyguards, afraid of being discovered, did not follow her in. They only heard Precious chanting something about a great immortal, unbinding, and why her parents couldn't be released, among other things. In the quiet forest, only Precious's voice could be heard, as if bargaining with someone. It wasn't until dawn that Precious left the forest with a sorrowful expression. The bodyguard continued to follow Precious. Lucy and I entered the forest. In the woods, there was an old earthen temple built with adobe, used to worship local land and mountain deities. The mud-made roof was kicked away by Precious, revealing a thin, palm-sized black card. Just as I reached out to touch it, I suddenly heard a very mechanical electronic voice. "Humph, greedy humans." My eyes suddenly widened. Lucy was startled by my expression. "Lisa, what's wrong?" I asked. "Did you hear someone talking?" Lucy shook her head, tugging at my sleeve with a hint of fear. "Lisa, what did you hear?" "I'm scared." The electronic voice spoke again. "Not every human's brainwaves can connect to my signal. You are very fortunate. Speak. What do you wish to exchange with me for these cheap offerings?" I took a few deep breaths and gave Lucy a firm look, signaling her not to be afraid. "Are you a deity or a monster?" The electronic voice paused for a moment. "From the first human who found me, you all have called me the Great Immortal." I frowned. "So what exactly are you?" The electronic voice replied. "In the language of the current era, I am an intelligent system created by another, higher-level civilization." I was too shocked to speak. "Oh my God, this world really does have a system." The system explained its origin to me. A long time ago, during an interstellar trip, it was dropped on Earth by its user. Over the long years, it passed through the hands of many humans. However, not all humans could communicate with it via brainwaves. Even when communication was possible, ancient humans were far less advanced than the civilization that created the system. Thus, they regarded the small black card containing the system as a deity, repeatedly embedding it into various forms of divine statues made of clay, wood, gold, and other materials. Until the last 100 years, the temple where the little black card resided was destroyed in the war. It's unclear which faithful person mixed it back into the mud and built that inconspicuous little shrine in the woods. I asked directly, "Did you help my family bind some kind of double system?" The system replied directly, "Yes." I asked, "Why did you do this?" "Many years ago, an elderly couple came before me and worshipped devoutly. Their younger son had a successful career and a happy family, so they wished for their elder son's family to replicate twice the achievements of the younger son's family, ensuring that their only grandson would also have a bright future." I was baffled. "You asked, and you agreed?" The system replied as if it had accomplished a small task. "Agreed. Because it's just a simple double effect function. My only condition is that they help me build a larger temple, so more humans can come to worship." I was momentarily speechless. I don't know whether to say the system is naive or my grandparents are too cunning. With such an effective, great immortal at their disposal, how could they not monopolize it and feel at ease sharing it with others? But I forgot that the system can read my brainwaves. Some things don't even need to be said out loud. The system said coldly, "Of course, I know about human greed. The so-called double effect inherently has a bug. Human circumstances are influenced by too many variables, like your father, who worked hard in the first half of his life and achieved success in middle age, yet still fell victim to someone's schemes. your mother's prestigious and well-off workplace, encountering the limitations of the era's development, has seen its benefits reduced. Moreover, you were an underachiever. Yet through persistence, continuously practicing and predicting exam questions, you performed exceptionally well in the college entrance exam. Using the ancient saying of this land, share blessings together, then one must also share hardships together, I whispered, but this isn't fair. All outcomes, whether fortune or misfortune, shouldn't come without reason. My family's achievements were created and managed by my parents. My uncle's family just got it for free, as if it fell from the sky. Even when facing difficulties, my parents work together and find ways to overcome them. If, this time, my father wins the lawsuit, my family will safely get through this crisis. Because of the double effect, will my uncle also be acquitted and continue to receive double the wealth from my family? The system did not reply. I pressed further. Doesn't uncle owe an explanation to the victims he defrauded? The system still did not respond. My voice trembled slightly, but I persisted. There is no absolute fairness in the world, but there should be no rigid application of the principle, share blessings and hardships together. My father will definitely win the lawsuit because he was framed and set up, and he can prove his innocence. My uncle's fraud is a fact, and no one has the right to relieve him of the punishment on behalf of the victims, just like how my uncle's family gained benefits unjustly. It was driven by greed from the very beginning, and it was wrong. The system, which had been silent all along, suddenly spoke. So, you set up your cousin to find me, hoping I would undo the request your grandparents made back then. Realizing the system could detect my final thoughts, I said without hesitation, correct, you are merely a system running with vulnerabilities. Even a deity cannot casually alter an ordinary person's life. The system remained silent for a very, very long time. It had been so long that sorrow grew in my heart. Lucy had been by my side all along, watching me talk to myself with concern. Only when both the system and I fell silent did she place her hand on my shoulder. I could no longer hold back, and tears began to fall uncontrollably. At that moment, the system let out a sigh that resembled a human expression of emotion. I do indeed have a flaw, because I cannot distinguish between good and evil in human morality. What I can discern is only the depth of the wishmaker's obsession with their desire. Your grandparents had a very deep level of obsession when they made their wish back then, so, even though their wish had logical flaws, I still fulfilled the double effect for my own purpose. This time, the depth of the wish obsession you want to resolve is far greater than theirs, so I can grant your wish. Removing the double effect didn't bring any special sensation, it was just a fleeting moment. And the forest continued with its wind and birdsong, when the system said it was removed. I couldn't help but ask a question. You said you fulfilled your grandparents' wishes for your own purpose. What exactly is your purpose? The system explained. My only condition was that they help me build a larger temple, so more humans could come to worship. This way, I can understand the development of the outside world through human brainwaves and connect with more humans whose brainwaves resonate with mine, as long as I find, among these like-minded humans, those who yearn for a higher civilization and form alliances with them. I have hope of making contact with the creator civilization. I've been away from home for a long time. I want to go back. I'm confused, but all these years, my grandparents never kept their promise. Why do you still maintain the double effect? The system finally said. Before your grandparents arrived, it had been nearly a century since I last communicated with a human whose brainwaves were in sync with mine. They are the only hope I can cling to, but now, I no longer want to place my hopes on any human being. It's time for me to shut down and go into hibernation. I returned to the city with the little black card in my pocket. I never heard the system say another word to me again. It has accumulated enough disappointment throughout its long history of coexistence with humanity. Falling into dormancy might be a good thing. It wouldn't be too late to wake up again one day. When human civilization truly develops to the same level as the advanced civilization that created it, my father won the lawsuit without even having to fight it. The supplier returned to the city and immediately reported my father's company, exposed the executive who framed my father for taking kickbacks. My father directly submitted his resignation and then went to the tax department. The CEO of my father's company personally called my father. It means always leave a way out. So you can meet again in the future, my dad said. Whether you want to be cheap or not, you're cheap anyway. When your brother-in-law framed me for over 10 million in debt and tried to send me to jail, where were you then? After hanging up, he pulled out the SIM card. Not long after, my dad's former company fell apart due to various negative news and the management shifting blame onto each other. My family seems to have turned misfortune into blessing. But there is still one trouble that hasn't been resolved. When my grandparents found out that my father's lawsuit was settled, they came to our house to cause trouble again. This time, Precious didn't dare to come along. He's a celebrity now. Wherever he goes, people hold up their phones to film him, mocking him as the diarrhea boy. You must get the money for me, so Precious can go to school. My father lowered his head to smoke, then casually stubbed out the cigarette. He just looked up, saying nothing, staring at his grandparents. Grandma was stared at until she felt uncomfortable and didn't dare to speak. Grandpa finally found his voice at this moment. If you're having difficulties, you can take less. My dad directly held out his hand and asked Grandpa for it. Dad, I have no money, but you must support my family. Of course, a little less is also acceptable. Grandpa's face turned livid. Are you useless? How dare you say such a thing? My dad nodded. I am useless. My whole family is useless. Otherwise, how dare Precious ask me for money? Why can't I ask you for money? Then came the sound of things being smashed to pieces. My mom and I came out of the kitchen. We saw Grandpa stomping down the stairs angrily, while Grandma was still standing with her hands on her hips, yelling, I thought you had a bright future back then, but I never expected you to turn out so useless. If I had known, I wouldn't have bound myself to you. Grandma's gaze swept over me as well. It's all because of you, you jinx. The fortune teller was right. Why must there be a if there is already a B? My dad slammed the door shut. The reason my grandparents came to make a scene is that the double effect was indeed unbound. My uncle and aunt were sentenced to several years in prison and even got divorced while serving their sentences. My uncle's family can no longer obtain double the wealth of my family out of thin air. Afterward, my father made two decisions. First, sell the house and move the whole family to the city where I attend university. Second, cut ties with relatives. Everyone deeply yearns to be treated with sincerity, yet sincerity is truly rare and precious. Since it cannot be obtained, there's no use in clinging to it persistently. During my freshman year of college, Precious was sent back to repeat high school. Because of the test questions, Precious couldn't answer any of them. The teachers couldn't believe it. How could a top student who had scored over 700 multiple times be so useless? So they gradually reduced the difficulty for him, starting from senior year exam questions down to sophomore and freshman year, and finally even gave him the third grade elementary school questions meant for the teacher's son. He couldn't solve a single one. The teachers were all stunned. It was suggested that his grandparents take him to the hospital for an IQ test. The grandparents finally agreed and took him for the test, and the result was a slightly below average IQ score. Fortunately, he is not intellectually disabled, but he only knows how to idle away and wait for death. With a huge physique and often prone to helpless rage, what's the difference between this and a giant baby? The celestial being has untied the bond. But why haven't my parents come out? Will my family never be rich again? Am I no longer a top student? Precious is useless, but he's not stupid. He gradually understood how he was different from ordinary people, but he no longer had 18 years to relearn how to be an ordinary person. When his grandparents couldn't scrape together any more money and subtly hinted that Precious could go out to work, Precious lost it. He was holding a large broom, chasing his grandparents around the yard and beating them as if they were his enemies. I don't care, you have to support me. If there's no money at home, you all have to go to work for me. I'm not useless. I want to study. Where are the answers? Why aren't they coming to me? A person who has lived in cheat mode since childhood. Once leaving the system, how can he navigate through this cruel game of life? Yet it was the grandparents who personally created this useless Precious. The grandparents, over 60 years old, have to join the workforce of elderly re-employment. One works as a security guard, the other as a cleaner. I wonder how much longer these two old diesel engines can keep pulling the heavy truck. Precious, and my entire family, after parting ways with my grandparents, started a completely new life in another city. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.